Hi, hello, and welcome back. I am suffering in this fucking heat wave, and this is gonna be the prologue, the opening. I don't know. I'm looking over there because battery. It's very low, and I need to hurry the fuck up. So this video will be uploaded, hopefully, I swear to God, on the 14th of August, which would mark 1 year. It would be my 1 year anniversary of surviving this entire fucking bullshit, but also not. Oh, I hope you can't hear the fucking church bells in the background because I left my window open. But it's too late to change that. I just want to put this video in here as an update of sorts, and to just kind of go through a few things. And one of those things is that shelf. I never fucking addressed it in the video that you're about to watch. I don't fucking address it. It's gonna be the first video I'll upload on this channel of this shelf. As you might be able to see, those are dildos. But there's tiny ones. I love the tiny ones. And then there's proper sex toys. It's not because I'm a fucking fiend, I just like them. I'm a fucking asexual, dude. I just love them. They're art. I'm not gonna take them and bring them to the fucking camera. You can admire them completely blown out, whitewashed. You can appreciate them from the distance. My chair is so fucking loud. But yeah, I collect them. I collect dildos. But they're fucking expensive, so that's the only thing you'll get. Maybe there's gonna be more on there in the future, but that's it. Another thing I want to explain is at the end of the video, after I turn off the camera, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, what I did after recording it, I'll insert some pictures of my journey. So just a trigger warning here for pictures of a hospital setting, if that's a trigger for you. It certainly is for me now. A trigger for sutures, and I'm not gonna show an injury, I'm not gonna show anything. I'm just gonna maybe insert a few pictures. So if that's not your cup of tea, don't look at them. It personally took me a while to look at the pictures myself. I just kind of want to include them, maybe just for me as a diary or something. So yeah, and by the way, a trigger warning just for a few things I say in the video. I'm not gonna censor. Before I recorded this, I was like, oh my god, should I say trigger warning for Sewerslide? No, trigger warning for suicidal thoughts. We'll name this shit by the fucking word. I'm not gonna censor anything here. But yeah, trigger warning for hospital shit, for mentions of suicidal thoughts, and at the end of the video, I'll put a timestamp here where I'll start showing the pictures, maybe a video or two. I don't know if I made any videos. So yeah, this is just, oh my god, that's a hair. I fucking hate summer. Yeah, have fun. What the fuck are you waiting for? Go and have fun. Wait. Let me pour myself fucking drink, dude. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. What? Oh my fucking god, dude. Okay. Hold on, let me take a sippy. Hi, hello, and welcome back. I am your host, battling both with depression and poverty. And today I'm recording a video I've maybe recorded 5 or 6 times. I don't know why I want to talk about this. Maybe it's just to work things out, right? And I have to upload something. I can't just record videos and then not upload them, right? Hold on, let me very professionally clean my glasses. I will upload more videos, hopefully, on this channel. And once I do, you'll notice something about the background. The background will be different. I've moved out of my family/parents' home. Maybe I'll get into that in another video, but I'm living on my own now. It's weird. It's fucking expensive. And yeah, I hope I'll be able to afford this forever. And I hope I'll be able to stay here forever. I feel like my microphone is so quiet. But you know what? Yeah, this doesn't look too bad. Also, say hi to my wife. I hope she's not distracting. If she is, I'll have to put my camera over here. I hope she's not distracting. She's distracting me, but I hope she's not distracting you. So, yeah, I want to talk about something. I want to talk about something that happened last year. And I really don't know why I want to talk about it, because I'll cry. And I don't know why I want to record myself crying. Period. Right? I wanted to be more active on this channel, and I hope now that I'm living alone and that I have more energy for myself, I can do it. So this will be the first thing I'll hopefully upload as the marking of a beginning. I don't know. English is really difficult. I'm Swiss, dude. So, yeah. Should I just start? I should just start. I'm gonna start now. Why am I beating around the bush? Because I told myself, okay, I'm gonna record this video. I'm gonna record it in a way that I have to add no cuts, no edits. And here I am going. I'll just start. I'm trying to learn a Boston accent. I'm so sorry. There's one reason, but you know what? We'll ignore that. We'll just ignore that. One of the many reasons why I've not been active on that channel at all. I've recorded a lot of things, even things at the peak of what I went through last year. But then, you know, I had no energy, and I'll explain why. Right now, God fucking damn it. Last year, I had to get 2 back surgeries done, and that's just a stat, right? Let me wind back. Let me go back in time. On the 23rd of December of 2024, I had a bit of a sore back. The day before, it was maybe a Monday. I'm not sure. What? Let's not look it up. I was lifting some heavy boxes because I wanted to get a figurine out of my basement. I was nose deep into Bleach, the manga, and the anime, and my favorite character is Chad. Oh my god. Yastora Sado, I think is his real name. I'm butchering it. And years ago, when I was 13 or 14, like half my lifetime ago, I got gifted a figurine of Chad from a good friend of mine, and I was like, you know what? I'm fucking knee deep in Bleach again. I'm gonna go get my Chad figurine, and he was like in a box of memories at the way back in the fucking back rooms that is our basement, that is just filled with boxes. And you know, since I'm a child, I wanna prove that I'm a strong girl. I'm fucking strong. I'm not. So I was just lifting boxes. But I told myself, you need to just stabilize your core. You need to lift from your knees. But for whatever reason, I fucked up my back then and there because of Chad. I didn't notice it right away. Next day I woke up, I was like, that's a bit sore. Why? I feel a bit stiff. I took a hot bath. I tried to loosen up and stuff. And then on the 24th of December, I got up and I could barely walk. Wow. My hip, my lower back, felt like a block of cement. I couldn't move it. I couldn't straighten up my back. I walked like this. I had to shuffle my legs because I couldn't move anything from like the lower back down. And I had experienced that once or twice before, but not as bad. And I thought to myself, well, that's just, my sciatic nerve acting up. I've pinched that one before. I know how that feels. But something in my gut told me that that's not just the sciatic nerve being pinched. That year I've had a lot of back issues that I just ignored because I didn't want to appear weak, because I still wanted to go to work. I had pinched my nerve maybe in May or June and couldn't walk for let's say half a day. I was very sore, and I called the doctor, and I didn't visit the doctor. I just called them and told them, hey, can you tell my boss that I can't work for 3 days, like a sick leave, and they were like, well, do you want to come over? And I was like, no, I know it's just like a sciatic nerve or something that we call a Hexenschuss, like just a sore back, right? That'll clear up in no time. And it cleared up a little bit over the next 3 months. And so in November, I'd say I felt pretty good. And I think what had happened in May or June was the first sign of something really bad coming my way, and I just fucking ignored it. We'll get to that. I went to work on the 24th of December. It was only the morning, but I had signed up for a really important task, and I was like, I can't disappoint the team. So I went into the office, and I was in constant agonizing pain. I smiled through it. I didn't want to worry anyone. I walked a bit iffy, and when people asked me, I said, I slept weird. I think I pinched my sciatic nerve. I got a little bit of a sore back. And then one colleague of mine looked at me. And she was like, did you herniate a disc? And I was like, no, what? How could I fucking herniate a disc, dude? Like, my father herniated his disc when he was 30. My mother herniated her discs 10 years ago. And my brother herniated a disc like last year. But that can't be me. And like, when you hear it, a herniated disc doesn't sound bad. Buckle up. I played it down. I was like, no, it's just a sciatic nerve. I just pinched that motherfucker. I got really, really tight glutes, but not a good kind of tight, but like an obese sitting a lot kind of tight glute, right? So I was like, yeah, my fucking glutes, my fat ass is pinching my sciatic nerve. And she just looked at me and went like, Sure, because she had 5 or 6 years ago herniated 2 discs, and she knew what she saw, but I was just like, oh, what the fuck? And then came like Christmas, and I didn't have to work. And when I came home from work, I broke down crying because I felt really, really bad. While I was walking to the train station back to work, people looked at me because I walked really weird. And like, I'm a fat bitch, but I am really proud of how well I can walk, how fast, and just how efficient. Like, I get shit done when I'm on my legs. And that was like not only a punch to my health, but also to my ego, having to walk like that. And in my head, I imagine these people thinking, oh my God, look at that fat bitch. Look at how she walks. Like, not surprising how fat she is. Like, that was all that was going on in my head. And then, of course, the pain. And my mother tried to, like, reassure me that it'll pass. It didn't pass. It got worse. It got really, really, really bad. And during Christmas and New Year, no one fucking works. So I think I called my doctor on the 5th or 6th of January, and I said, my back hurts really badly and I can barely walk. And I have been like, it was really like going well, moving around in the house, because like the upper floor was mine. So I would walk down the stairs and up the stairs, and that would work fairly well. I had tried to keep my back warm because I thought it's just the muscles being fucking stupid. It was the muscles being fucking stupid, but I thought that was my only issue. And so the doctor said, yeah, you can come in like 1 or 2 hours. So I got ready, and my mother asked me if I was well enough to walk to the doctor. And I was like, yeah, sure. But the second I was out of the house and I walked down the stairs, I realized that I was not well. I still couldn't walk. And by couldn't walk, I mean, I don't mean I collapsed and my legs were paralyzed. It was like I couldn't move my legs really well. Like, they were stiff as a board from the hip. Like, the hip was just like a block of cement, and I couldn't move it. And you need to move your fucking hips to walk. And so I shuffled like a 98-year-old fucking grandma with osteoporosis. I shuffled to the doctor, and I got inside. I sat down and I cried. I was tired. I was in pain. And then my doctor ended, and he was like, oh my God, why are you crying? And I was like, because I'm in pain. And he was like, oh yeah, he did some tests, and my right leg was really weak. Like, I couldn't move my right leg like above the knee. It wasn't doing anything. And then he was like, yeah, it's just probably an ISG blockage. Like, we have an is it ISG? It's an isosakral gelenk, English. SG. SIG. Okay. He said that joint. Where the fuck is that joint again? Joint. Anyway. Where the fuck is that bitch? Ah, yeah. It's like where the spine meets the hip bone. And he was like, that is probably inflamed. Like, I'm sorry, I just bit off a piece of skin that was irritating me. And he was like, that's just that. That is that. And he was like, you have to visit physical therapy though, because that will not go away on its own. Pretty much. And so I was like, hey, it's just that fucking joint in my hip that's fucking me up. Great. It's not a herniated disc. And so I went to physical therapy. We did some work, and like just some basic what would you call it? basic tests to see how well my hip worked, and it didn't work. I couldn't tilt it, I couldn't really move it. It was like it was fused with my spine, and the lower part of the spine and my hip was just like a stick in a cement block, like an iron fucking pipe in a cement block. That was what that felt like. And then she was like, yeah, I had to maybe, I'm sorry, I'm playing with the piece of skin in my mouth. Maybe visit physical therapy twice a week, just to get this over with. My job was informed at that time, and it was like, yeah, I'm gonna be out of commission for the near future. I also got some painkillers, which were working absolutely fucking nothing. They didn't even help with my headaches. I went to physical therapy twice a week, and then suddenly I couldn't feel my toes anymore. Like they were asleep, and I could wiggle them, and I had a numb spot at that, what's that bone called? Like the foot, you have a little bone there, the little thing that's protruding. That one was numb, and a piece of my calf was just fucking numb. And I told my physical therapist, I was like, hey, it's really weird, but I can't feel my toes anymore. And she looked at me and she was like, you need an MRI done. That is not a symptom of the thing that you've been, what's that called? When you got diagnosed. That's not a symptom of that. And she was like, go get an MRI done. Mm-hmm. So I called my doctor for the next, I had a checkup anyway. And I sat down and I was like, hey, I want an MRI done. And he looked at me and he was like, you don't want that. You don't want that. Because on an MRI, you might see things that unsettle you and that don't have to unsettle you because they're nothing. And I was like, I can't feel my toes anymore. And then he was like, you need an MRI done. So I got an appointment to get that MRI done, and my mother had to accompany me everywhere because I still couldn't really walk. And it got so bad, like I went on walks every day. I tried to like move my hip, and I could maybe like take 10 steps and then I was out of breath, weak, my legs were shaking, I was not well. And so my mother had to accompany me everywhere because I could not do things on my own. So we went there into that, like, it was just like a little office with like one MRI thing. Got that done. And then a few weeks later, I had another checkup. By the way, the doc gave me no painkillers because he asked me, well, it was like Olfen. I don't know if that's like a worldwide painkiller. He was like, how's your pain? I was like, still a 9 or a 10 out of 10. He was like, even with the painkillers? And I was like, yes, even with those fucking painkillers. They were like 50 milligrams. Like, what the fuck? I got new ones. They didn't work either. Nothing worked. No painkiller I took worked. Well, MRI pictures came through. And my lower 3 or 4 discs are degenerated as fuck. Probably something I inherited. Probably something that I also did by being obese and sitting a lot. But knowing that my entire family, back to our time as Neanderthals, we have probably a generative, like I inherited it in some way, shape or form, but I also possibly like push it a little bit with my very simple lifestyle. Stagnant, whatever. I don't move a lot. Don't know if you can tell. And so my doctor was like, well, now I need to forward you to a hospital because this is out of my range. You need to see a back specialist. And the back specialist I saw. And she was like, well, we can try something. And that is an injection right to the nerve to just kind of like, because my nerve, my the back nerve was pinched. Like, that bitch was screaming of pain. And she was like, I can give you an injection to numb the nerve so you can live again. Because up until that point, I didn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I could lay down for maybe half an hour or 2 hours, and then I would wake up, or if I was even asleep, or just I'd be in so much pain. It felt like my entire leg was set ablaze. And nothing would give me any kind of comfort. Nothing would alleviate the pain. I was just in constant pain every waking second of my fucking life. And that for 8 months. I wanted to die so many times. I had two options. Every time I was in a really low space, I thought to myself, okay, either that leg gets fucking amputated or I die, but I need relief. This can't go on like this. The injection gave me some level of relief, and I was able to work again. What was it? April or May, I slowly got back to work. Because I went from like a 9 out of 10 down to a 3 out of 10 of pain. But I was still in pain. I was still in a lot of discomfort. Sleeping still was really difficult and almost impossible. Are you even recording me? Oh, you better be. And I had just lost all energy, all happiness, every single will to live was gone. But the injection had given me a little bit of hope. It wasn't much, but it kept me going because I realized that there was a life without pain. And it's amazing, right? We forget pain really quickly. Like I have tattoos. We forget pain extremely fast. But also when we're in pain, we don't know what it's like without it extremely fast. And in my brain somewhere, a little voice told me, this is gonna be your life until you die. Because nothing brought me peace. Every waking hour, whether I was in pain or not, every thought revolved my back. Should I do that movement? Should I lift this? Should I twist? Should I stretch? Like, my entire body was so tense that even the littlest movement would tear a muscle somewhere, and I would be in pain in a completely other area of my body. Suddenly I was in pain everywhere. My knees, my fucking wrists, my shoulders, my neck, everything hurt because, my body was out of balance. It was just completely fucked. And my psyche too. I went to therapy for 4 or 5 appointments because I was severely depressed because of the pain. I, again, didn't want to live anymore. And I was constantly overstimulated. I would sit in a bus and someone would clear their throat and I would want to punch that person in their genitalia immediately. I was always I was always so angry and so tense and so upset. And I wasn't sure at that point. Was that the pain or was that my mental state? Of course, the pain was a reason, but I didn't know if there was something else going on. So I went to therapy and it cleared up that it was most likely the pain. So yeah, it was it was May when I started working again. And then 1 or 2 months, it was going pretty okay. And then suddenly, with every day, the pain came back. And it came back identically as bad as before the injection. Fun thing about the injection, like I'm obese, right? You may not see right now, but I have the fattest ass. And so when I had to get the injection done, I was like laying on my stomach, right? I was so fucking nervous. And then the doctor came in and I didn't say anything, but during like the procedure, we realized that the needle was too short. And I'm gonna paint you a picture. First of all, I was laying there with the knowledge that a needle was entering my fucking spine and I was just tingling my nerve, right? First, it was of course like sedated, not me, but that part of my body. And the doctor had to lean on the needle with her entire body weight until it touched my nerve, because there's so much fat there. Like, I'm not gonna stand up and show you, but you'll see it maybe one day. And I was freaking out because I had like a really long needle in my fucking back, and I was ashamed and I was so embarrassed. And while the doctor was like pushing her entire body weight on the needle, I finally felt that kind of like lightning go through my nerve when the needle had hit it. And so she just injected all of it, pulled the needle out, put a little band-aid on it, and sent me home. Like, no checkup, no how are you feeling. It was like, well, she was like kind enough to do that in the middle of her lunch break, because I was like, I can't wait 3 months for that injection. In 3 months, I'm going to be dead. And then she was like, okay, I might be able to, like, in 3 days lunch break, or like, no, maybe 1 or 2 days. I was like, okay, yeah, I can wait 1 or 2 days. And the best thing was, like, the anesthetic, the local anesthetic, it had numbed the pain completely. So like the day when I went home after like the injection, I felt great. But when the anesthesia had worn off, like the sedation or the numbing, the pain was back with full force. And I was so disappointed. I thought it had failed. And I called the hospital and I was like, is this normal? And they were like, yeah, that's because the local anesthesia has now worn off. But the drug in your back will slowly work. Oh, what was it again? It's like something that makes your bones brittle when you use it too much. Anti-inflammatory. Oh, what are they? Cortisol. No. Oh my fucking god. Cortisol. Is it cortisol? Cortisone, motherfucker. Yup, same thing. And again, it did work slowly. And then one day I had visited the office. All of this is out of like chronological order. I'm so sorry. I had visited the office and I cried when I saw the ladies were mostly a female office. And my one colleague who had her slip discs approached me and gave me such a motherly hug. And she asked me how I was. I was like, yeah, it's difficult, but I hope I won't need a surgery. And she looked at me and she was like, girl. I was like, no, I don't need a fucking surgery. I don't need that. Like, this injection is working really, really well. And she was like, we will see. And yeah, started working again slowly, but I was at such a bad mental place. I would call regularly and say, hey, I can't come into the office right now. I'm like really bad. Like we had started an attempt, then had to break off again. We started another attempt at me going back into the office, and we had to break off again. And my boss, the not a CEO. We don't have CEOs where I work, but like the one in charge got really, really mad at me. Fuck him, by the way. He won't see this. And there was like no empathy. Like, I showed up every day. I wasn't limping that badly, and I was smiling and laughing at jokes. And my boss was like, "But you're smiling and laughing." And then I told him, like, "What? Do you want me to stop masking the pain? Do you want me to cry every time I come into the office? Be glad I'm masking, dude." And he was like, "It's just, we can't tell how bad it really is because you're acting like you're normal." And I was so frustrating because I would tell people how I felt, and they would say, but you don't look like it. Anyway, they tried their best. They were very, very overwhelmed with the situation, but so was I. I was in the middle of it. I hadn't slept for more than 3 hours in months. I was severely sleep deprived. I was still in pain. I was depressed as fuck. Like, what the fuck are you? What do you want from me? And then the funniest thing was, I would say, yeah, I feel like I'm depressed. And then my boss was like, then it's good you're coming into the office. And it was like, no, it takes my battery is on 30%. Going into the office would take 70%. And that's energy I don't have. But they wouldn't understand it. We're like, but going to work is the best thing for your psyche. Seeing your colleagues is really important for your mental health. And then I would start and I would break up, and I would start and break up. And they didn't see it. They were like, well, we did exactly the same as last time. Why didn't it work? You know what insanity is? You know the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something to change. Anyway, I don't know if that is the quote, like, beat by beat. I'm sorry, Voss. Don't even know if that is that his name. I'm not gonna look it up. So the pain came back, and I dropped into my little dark, depressing hole of, well, death it is. Death it wasn't, as you can clearly see. Went back into a checkup just to see how the injection worked. And I said it didn't work at all. I was like pain-free for like 2.5 months, but I'm back at the start, baby. Back where it all began. Back to square fucking zero. Okay? Not back to square one, to zero. No progress made. Like even the physical therapy. I went to physical therapy twice a week, then once a week. And I was still exact same pain. Yeah, my muscles got stronger, but the pain was still there. And then I would look up things, right? I would like, okay, herniated disc. And it was like, yeah, it takes about 3 to 6 months. No, not even 3 months. It takes a few weeks to get better. Okay? Physical therapy. But I'm going to physical therapy twice a week for more than 3 months now. Huh? Why am I not getting better? And even my boss, fuck him, was like, well, you should be better already because, I looked it up and, herniated disc takes like 6 to 8 weeks to get better. And, you haven't been at work for months now. So why are you not better? We're getting like really impatient here. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. You could also look up severe cases of herniated discs, and then you would find results that would not tell you that it takes 6 to 8 months or 6 to 8 weeks or 3 months. Fuck ass. Punk. So anyway, I went back to my back specialist, and I was like, I need a solution, or I'm gonna lose my job and I'm gonna lose my life. And then she was like, I cannot operate until you get a second MRI. And then I went and took a second MRI. And guess what? Nothing had fucking changed. I had an MRI done in maybe January or February, March, April, May, June, July. 5 months, nothing had changed. It was still like not even a millimeter. It was still the same. And then she was like, yeah, let's operate. Let's open you up and look inside. And that marked the end of my journey. But what a horrific, traumatizing fucking end it was. So let's jump into it, shall we? That was like months of pain just to go out with a fucking bang. I had a surgery date. And I was told that I would need to stay in hospital for like 2 or 3 days. Just so people can make sure that nothing in my back was damaged, that I could walk, that nothing had gone wrong. And I had thought back to another surgery that I had done. Should I say what surgery was? I had to correct something downstairs. A little birth defect. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I've had that surgery, by the way, was like 15 to 20 minutes. They just had to chop off something, right? And I was like, yeah, surgeries they're no fuck that. Come on, that's peanuts, right? That's fucking peanuts. Peanuts. That's nothing. I've had a surgery. And so on the 14th of August, I entered the hospital and had my surgery. That it took like 2 or 3 hours because they found a surprise. It wasn't a surprise. It was just the herniated disc was completely dried out. It was as tough as what's this shit called that you have in your nose? Cartilage. I didn't even have to look it up. I was so fucking smart. It was as tough as cartilage, not like because our discs, right? They're little marshmallows. They're little cushions. They absorb. You know. And this disc did not absorb anything anymore. And it took her way longer than she had planned to get the disc out of the way. I woke up and I was told that I needed to lay still for 24 hours just so I wouldn't mess things up. And I wasn't told that if you don't move for 24 hours, your circular, like your vascular and like blood pressure stuff gets fucked dramatically. And so I was just laying there. I couldn't move. I used my phone to look around because every time I dropped something, I would be like, fuck. Oh, shit. The first day was awful. I could barely eat anything. And I, like, the anesthesia was no bueno. It was not good for me. Waking up, by the way, what a fucking nightmare. I hate waking up from anesthesia. What the fuck is this bullshit? I was like, no, I want to wake up and you can't move a single fucking thing. And I was in pain, you know, from like, they had to cut me off. Like, cut me off. They had to cut me open a little bit, right? And that hurt. And I had blood pressure that would go off like every now and then. They're like, dumbass. And I couldn't open my eyes. I just heard people walk around, take my blood pressure, give me painkiller. And I didn't see anything from my hospital room. I was just constantly laying flat. And then the next day after the surgery, I was told that I can finally get up. Now you can do that. Now you can get up. Oh, another very fun thing. I have shy bladder syndrome. I can't pee in public. And because I couldn't get up, because I had to lay down, I had to pee in one of those dishes, like lift your butt. I couldn't do it. So they had to put in a catheter, which was very, very nice. It was so embarrassing. Everything was embarrassing from top to bottom. Right? And so I was first of all, I was naked. I was naked the entire time I stayed there. No clothes on. Zero clothes. I was just laying there with like a thin sheet covering me. Anyway, so first night, I don't remember if it was in the first or the second night, but we'll continue. Then, no, it was the first night. I had my little plushie. I don't know if you can see her. Is that her? Is that my little Susie? Susie the spider. I had her with me as for like moral support. And then I think it was the first night I was like, oh my God, my arm feels wet. It was summer, right? I was sweating my non-existent balls off. And I was like, oh, my arm feels kind of sticky. What the fuck? Oh, whatever. And then I moved Susie. I'm so lucky she didn't get dirty. And then I was like, oh, okay, I want to move my arm a bit. And when I moved it, I noticed, oh, my arm is wet. And I looked down, and there was just blood everywhere because my IV drip had just, I don't know. It was still inside, but there was just blood leaking everywhere. And I was like, I pressed the button. And the nurse came in. It was the middle of the night. And he didn't say a word. He was like, oh, okay. Cleaned everything up. I was like, my arm was covered in blood and my entire like side. And he cleaned everything up and then he left. And I was there without the IV drip and I was like, do I not need that anymore? He didn't say a word. He just, I mean, thank you for your service, dude, but he just left. I didn't see him ever again. He did work there though. So yeah. And then the next day, I was given I was free to sit up, and I was nervous because I had to turn to the side every now and then, and I got dizzy every time I had to like turn to the side so they can like check the incision. And so I was like, I don't know if getting up is a smart idea. And so I told the nurses, I was like, so just so you know, I'm a little bit dizzy when I move my head. And they were like, oh yeah, it's your blood pressure. There's nothing to be concerned of. Also, they were severely overworked. Like, every time I was like, hey, can I get something? Sure. I would wait an hour and was like, yeah, can you? They forgot about me. That's what you get for being way too quiet. And so, the nurses came in and they helped me sit up. And I sat up and I got so dizzy. I had to close my eyes because it felt like a lot of pressure on my head, on my eyes. They were telling me, no, you have to keep your eyes open. And then they gave me like a blow up chair so I can sit upright. And I was just sitting there like, oh well. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to let you sit here until, your blood pressure has regulated, until the dizziness has stopped. And I sat there and I was like, okay. Oh my God. And then suddenly my hearing was gone. And I was like, that's not good. And I pressed the emergency button and immediately 3 nurses came in and they were like, you need to lay down. You need to lay down. And suddenly I was laying down. I was fighting it at first. I was like, oh, and they were like, you need to lay down. I was probably this close from passing out. And because when I was laying there, I suddenly realized that I was covered in sweat and I was shaking and I felt cold. It was so bad. It was really bad. And then they called the doctor, and he came in and he was like, did she lose consciousness? And they were like, no, she was a little bit gone, but she still talked to us. And they put a towel on me and shook the towel so I can get like air on my body, because I was covered in sweat in places I didn't even know I had sweat glands. Like every inch of my body was covered in sweat. I was dripping wet. Which was such a, yeah, and I was still naked. And then they left me alone. They were like, okay, you need to drink a lot. We're gonna go and get you some soup. You need to get some electrolytes and everything. I was like, okay. And then my family came to visit because it was visiting hours. And I had a towel on me that was like wide enough to cover until my armpits and like long enough to reach my knees. And that was everything I was dressed in. Everything that was covering my body was that. And my family saw me like that. Whatever. And while my family was there and I was crying, it's like, it just fucking sucks. I almost passed the fuck out. And my mother asked me, but are you in pain? No, I'm not. I had forgotten, like every now and then, I forget that I had surgery done to fix my back pain, which means that it worked, right? But at that moment, I was just not well. I hate not being able to sleep in my bed. I hate changes. I hate hospitals. It was just everything I hated. And then someone from the anesthesia team came over and was just like, how did your surgery go? How is the anesthesia? Well, I was asleep, so I think it was good. And then I was like, yeah, I feel like I didn't really, like, it wasn't good for me because I got really dizzy just earlier and I almost lost consciousness. And she was like, oh, but you were laying still 24 hours. You need to, like, activate your muscles so your body knows that it needs to move. And I was like, oh, thank you for someone to tell me that after I almost passed out. Why didn't no one like, that was something that really irked me afterwards is like, no one told me anything. I was just like, I felt like meat in a barber shop. like in a butcher shop, just being touched and groped and just tossed and just, yeah, that's tender, like that. No one explained to me anything. I could have asked, but also I was still dazed from a 3-hour anesthesia. Like, what do you expect me to do, right? Anyway, I know they're all overworked. Bless their hearts for doing something I couldn't, but still. And then I would just have to get up regularly, just sit up. I got dizzy every time. I was dizzy for like 5 days after that. It was horrible. It was just the worst. And then the next day, my best friend came over and I had to stay. No, I had to stay 1 day longer because of my dizziness and my weird blood pressure. My blood pressure was all right. I was just dizzy for it was apparent, but to me, no apparent reason. And they were like, yeah, we need to keep you a day longer. Like, we can't, like, get you home like that. I was like, I go home. And so that was the worst day. After my family had left and I was told that I had to stay another day, I had a panic attack. I like, your hospital beds have these bars, right? I was just holding them and I was shaking them and pressing them and I was crying and I was inconsolable. And one of the nurses came over, like a young one, and she just tried to calm me down, tried to tell me to breathe, but I couldn't. I was feeling so fucking bad. But bless their hearts, they tried their fucking best, right? And then when I had recovered a bit, the nurse had came back and she asked me, was that a panic attack? I was like, yeah, maybe. I don't fucking know. I just felt really unwell. And I apologized. I was like, sorry. And she was like, no, it's good. I learn by experiencing new things. And I slowly started to feel better, mostly thanks to Susie. She's I need to show you. You know what? I'm gonna get up so you can see my fat ass. Anyway, I got 2 plushies. I got 2 plushies from the same, like, seller. So this is Luna. She's a bat, and you can see how soft she is, right? Also, I cut off her teeth because she's cuter without them, right? You can see how soft she is. Susie, on the other hand, is really rough and very loved, and she has like very clumpy stuffing because I would hold her every day in the hospital during recovery. She was the only fucking thing that kept me sane. Look at that face. I love her so much. But yeah, you can see the comparison from being a very soft plushie to a very loved one. From tears and sweat and oily skin. She's my baby, dude. She's my fucking baby. So anyway, I had to stay another night at the hospital. Next day, I was moved. I had the pleasure of staying in a room all by myself, but then I was informed that someone was coming in who had to be isolated. So I was moved into another room with a lady who had her knee operated, and she couldn't walk. She had to have people help her. And so I was feeling better at that time. I still got really dizzy when I had to get up and walk, but it was getting better. Also, I wasn't allowed to get up and go to the toilet. Well, couldn't go to the toilet, but because I still had a catheter in. But I wasn't allowed to walk without nurses present because they were afraid that I would fall because I was so dizzy. And then my best friend came over. Bless her heart too, goddamn. And I felt like a dog because she wrote me, I'm on my way. And then I arrived and I was like, is that her? No, okay. Is that her? No, that's just a fucking nurse. Is that her? And then she came into the room and I was like, I was just fucking crying. Fuck me, dude. And she brought like salty pretzels because she was like, you were dizzy, right? You need to have a lot of salt and electrolytes. And she had like a fucking tray of like salty crackers and shit. And she gave me a Red Bull for when I would leave the hospital. She was like, you'll drink this once you were home, and put it in the fucking fridge. Bless this fucking angel. Anyway. That was the last day I had to spend there. I had to stay another night because I was still not stable enough, apparently. But when my best friend was over, she would put a chair in the middle of the room, and I would walk around my bed and just grab the chair and stand there just so my body knows that it has to fucking move. And then I spent another night there, and I couldn't sleep any night. Like, fuck this shit. And my roommate snored really badly. I snored maybe as well. I remember one time being like, what the fuck was that? Because I had to sleep on my back. I wasn't allowed to do anything but sit for just a second, stand and lay on my back and walk a little bit. Then the next day, the catheter was finally removed, and I realized that my panties were drenched in blood. Why, I still don't fucking know. Probably from the stress and everything, my uterus thought, you know what? Shed the lining. But yeah, I was a mess. And that's so cute. That was the first time I was allowed to wear clothes. And the only clothes I wore was a shirt and panties. Because a nurse came into my room and she was like, "Are you comfortable being naked?" And I was like, "No, I'm not, but no one asks me." And I didn't want to ring the bell to be like, "Nurse, can you put clothes on me?" I was just a piece of meat, like letting people do anything they wanted to me. The nicest people there were the people working for the anesthesia team. They were the ones who had to put me to sleep. They were really, really nice. I have like a bumblebee tattoo on honeycombs. I know. That's on purpose. Don't be like, oh, but bumblebees. Yes, I love bumblebees. I love bees, and I love honeycombs. So, suck it. And one of the guys working for the anesthesia team, we talked about bugs, because I kind of like bugs. I am deeply afraid of grasshoppers and shit, but I love bugs. They're so fucking cool. And we talked about them. We talked about cats. And then they slowly prepared everything. And they were like, "Before you drift off, what do you want to dream about?" And I was like, "Do you dream in full anesthesia?" And they were like, "If you try." And I was like, "I want to dream of my cats." I didn't dream of fucking anything. I was out, and then I was slowly back. By the way, I don't remember anesthesia being so fucking weird, because I made some incomprehensible sounds when I was slowly going under. I don't know what I was doing, but I would, the feeling of my head kind of like falling back, and I was like, oh, I was just, I made some really weird sounds when I was going under. And so I was finally like, I had to change rooms to the snoring roommate, and then spend another night. Exactly, catheter came out, and I was finally free to go home. I had to wear like a corset to keep my body straight. Fuck that thing, by the way. That's back there somewhere. Fuck that thing. I never want to see it ever again, because it reminds me of too much bad shit. And so I stumbled to the car. We drove home, and the drive home from the hospital went over like fucking that. I sat in the car, felt some bumps, and then I was home. And well, I'm gonna cry again. When we drove up to the house, one of my cats was there. Well, it's one of my mom's cats, Bon, and she sat on a rock, and I just saw her, and I was like, Bon, and I just fucking cried again. And when she saw me and heard me, she ran off because I was too much for her. And then finally going into my room, and my mother had bought flowers and everything. And I laid down. And when I woke up and sat up, I was dizzy again. And I panicked, and I was not well. And I had hoped, for some reason, that once I'm home, everything will go better. I mentioned 2 back surgeries, didn't I? Well, everything was going all right. I was really paranoid. I told my mother, "What is the bandage dry? Does it look good?" And she was like, "Yeah, it looks good." And then one day, I was like, "Hey Mom, can you check again?" And she was like, "Oh, suddenly there's brown and yellow spots." I called my doctor, not my specialist, and he was like, "Oh yeah, come over and show that." And I was there, and he removed the bandage, and he was like, yeah, that doesn't look good. You need to go back to the hospital. So the person who did surgery on you needs to look at that. It wasn't infected, but there was like, injuries. They are wet. There's, in German it's called Wundwasser, like injury water. What would that be? Oh my fucking god! I'm so sorry. I'll be right with you. It's like, oh my fucking god. Isn't that what? Why? It's not wound water. Ah, there is something that he said. A seroma. He said that looks like a seroma, like a little bubble of that water shit. And it was like, oh, that eventually has to get drained because a wet injury will not heal. So I called the hospital and they said, you need to come over immediately. And so I did. And that was the worst moment during everything. A moment where my entire world collapsed. Because I was there. I was like, I had Googled up on seromas, how the shit is treated. And I was like prepared to go in, have local anesthesia, have that bitch drained, sutured, and go home. But for whatever reason, well, one, I wasn't being treated by the person who had operated on me. It was her boss. And when I see a picture of him, I want to punch him and skin him alive. Because that dude was such a dumb piece of shit. So I sat down, he came in and he was, okay, yeah, you were here because your wound is leaking. Let's look at that. And he removed it, like not the wound, the dressing. And he like pressed on it. And he was like, does it hurt? And I said, no. And it wasn't warm. It wasn't smelly. And so I said, so it's not an infected wound. And he was like, I'm not so sure of that. And I was like, but it isn't infected yet. And he was like, exactly. It's not infected yet, but it can be infected. And I was like, oh, so like clean out the injury, suture it up. And he was like, no, if I suture it up, it will trap the infection inside. And I was like, but it isn't infected yet. And then he told me, well, you need to go home, pack your things, and get surgery done again. And I was like, what? I need to get surgery done, like full anesthesia? I just got home. I'm starting to get better. And I started crying because I thought it was just going there, having that shit taken care of and going home. And here he was telling me, yeah, go home, pack your things, come back, and you'll have to stay here for a few days. I was like, but why? It was like, yeah, you'll need an antibiotic drip for like 48 hours. And I was like, why an antibiotic drip? It's not inflamed. It's just a seroma. And he was like, no, you need to get that taken care of. And I was like, okay, what if I let you just stitch it up and go home? And it was like, okay, worst case scenario, I'll stitch it up, you go home, it'll get infected. You come here, you get an antibiotic, and that bacteria will be antibiotic resistant, and you'll have to be in hospital for months. Is that what you want? And I was like, no, that's not what I want, but it's not an inflamed wound. I do not have a wound infection. I don't have fever. It doesn't smell. There's no pus. It's a fucking seroma. And so, and he like scared me with all his hypotheticals of how it can go really fucking badly. And he was like, yeah, you come tomorrow. I'll stitch you up. I'll make a good job. And you'll have to stay here for 48 hours. And I was inconsolable. The entire drive home, I cried. It was like, this all starts again. I'm back. I'm back at square zero. Like, what the fuck? No, square one this time. And I was angry and upset and afraid. And the next day, we did as he told us. We went to the emergency. And there was like, hey, yeah, so that doctor told me I have to come here. And the nurses there were like, why do you have to come here? I was like, yeah, because I have a seroma, my injury, like my surgical incision, it's not healing well. And they were like, so it's inflamed. I was like, no, I don't have an infection. He told me to come here. And they were like, but that's not an emergency. I was like, he told me to come here. What the fuck do you want from me? And I had to wait hours at the emergency. They couldn't contact the doctor. They called him multiple times and he wouldn't pick up the phone. He was nowhere to be found. He hadn't informed any other surgeon that I was there for a wound revision surgery. He had told absolutely fucking no one. And that emergency was just spread out. I was there at 7 a.m. and I had surgery done at 3 p.m. I had only been drinking water. I hadn't eaten anything. I hadn't slept anything. Fuck that doctor. And he's like the boss. Fuck that dude. Fuck him. After everything was said and done, after I had recovered, I was seriously considering like notifying the hospital of what happened and how much, like, on an emotional level I had suffered from that fucking dick. I was crying and he just kept on talking and he just kept, yeah, blah, blah. He, not even a second did he consider how I felt, or he didn't even consider that he could like stop talking and reassure me. All he did was scare me to come back. And come back I did. And another surgeon, thankfully, not that asshole, did surgery on me. I was like on there for half an hour. They flushed it out. They cut out a huge chunk. I'm like concave there now in the back because they had removed everything that was there. Because that asshole doctor told me it's like a fat necrosis. Like he was like, yeah, because you're kind of like, you know, you're pork. He called it pork. You know, that is slowly melting away in your body. That's the words he used. Your pork is melting away in your body. And that's the shit that's leaking out. It's fat necrosis. You know, when you hear necrosis, you're like, okay, I'm gonna fucking die. I need surgery now. So I woke up from surgery. I had an IV drip. The nurses this time, when I was waking up, the one nurse was a little bit dumb because I was waking up and I was uncomfortable, so I moved a lot. And she was pressing my legs down and was like, you had back surgery. You should not move your legs. And I was like, it was just a wound revision. You had back surgery. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm in a lot of pain. Yeah, of course you're in pain. You had back surgery. And I was like, no, I'm just saying that so you can give me more painkillers. What the fuck? Because the first time when I was waking up, the nurse tapped me, was like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how bad is your pain? And I told them, and they would give me painkillers. This time, I was given no painkillers. Only when I said, I'm in a lot of pain. And then I was being told, yeah, of course you're in pain. You had back surgery done. Fuck me. The nurses in the hospital room were so much nicer. Like, oh my god, they were so much nicer. So I was there. And then the surgeon, well, not the surgeon, but someone working for him because he was really busy, came in. No, it was him. Yeah, it was him. He came in and I was like, well, is the inflammation gone? And he was like, ma'am, there was no inflammation. There was no fat necrosis. It was a seroma. Like, the only thing that happened was the first suture, they were subcutaneous sutures, like under the skin. The first 2 sutures had opened up because they got too wet. And I was like, oh, it's okay. Okay, so that drip is an antibiotic drip. And he was like, ma'am, you do not need antibiotics. We just had to clean out the wound. And what makes me angry is that I had suggested that to the first doctor, the asshole doctor. And I was like, but can't you just clean out the wound? Like, put a local anesthesia? And he was like, no, because if I put a needle in your injury, I push the bacteria into your spine, and then your entire back, your entire spinal cord will be inflamed because of your infection. And I was like, but it isn't infected. Because from what I had read up is when you have such a case, they take a sample and put it into the lab to see if there is an actual inflammation going on. And if there isn't, they will just clean out the wound and send you home. Put some antibiotic up in that shit and send you home. But this dude saw that and was like, yeah, you have to gonna be opened up because the bottom of the suture was healed. It was healed. And so from this like surgical site, I now have such a long scar on the back of on my lower back, and it is one of those, the bulgy ones. What are they called? A keloid. I now have a keloid scar there, and my back is concave because they removed everything underneath it. Like, they were thorough. But the doctor who operated on me said there was no inflammation, there was no fat necrosis, it was a seroma, and I was not an antibiotic drip, right? Keep that in mind. So asshole doctor comes in and he was like, yeah, just like I expected. But the doctor told me you did a great job. That antibiotics, that's going to be good for you. You'll have to stay on that drip for a few more hours. And then he left. And I was like, what are you talking about? Antibiotics? This is a saline drip. And a nurse came in and I asked her, ma'am, can you tell me what's in that drip? And she was like, yeah, it's a saline solution and painkillers. Fuck that asshole doctor. I don't know how he's still working there, but what a pretentious, arrogant piece of shit. Fuck you, dude. I never want to see that guy ever again. Fuck him. Fuck him. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so glad he didn't. One funny thing as well that he said was like, yeah, and when I'll perform surgery on you, I'll go and take a look if my colleague did a great work. I'm gonna go and look around in there. And I was like, no, please do not look around in my injury. He was just being such a pretentious, arrogant fucking asshole. I'm so glad he didn't perform surgery on me. Because I fear that if he was the one who did surgery, it would have gone really badly. So anyway, I had to stay another night there, not a week, just so they could make sure that I was doing well. Funny enough, my shy bladder was completely gone, and I was drinking so much that I had to go to the toilet every hour. And the nurses told me I wasn't allowed to go into the toilet alone, but I did. I was not going to ring every hour to be like, can you get me to the fucking toilet, please? So I did it on my own. I was desperate to get back the next day. I wanted to get out of that fucking hellhole. Got out the next day with a little bit of problems because I had to stay there for way too long. Because for whatever reason, doctors do visits, right? They go like, are you feeling okay? Is that okay? Is that okay? And they go from patient to patient. And when they visit you, they also give you the right, a little paper so you can leave. But that doctor who was doing his rounds, he was adamant that he'll visit every single patient on the entire block before giving me the paper to leave. And I had to stay there for so many hours. It was the visit was at 9 and I left maybe at 12 or almost 1 p.m. Whatever, dude. And that was the last time I had to get, oh my god, knock on fucking wood. I went home. I had 12 sutures along my back with these black ugly sutures that stung and were really uncomfortable, but everything was well. Everything was going well. I was finally recovering, but I wasn't relaxing at all. I wasn't getting comfortable because there was this fear that I had to go back again and again and again that the nightmare wasn't over. I called my mother pretty much every hour to look at my back to see if there was new splotches forming. Thankfully, everything went well. I went to the doctor to get my sutures removed, which was more painful than I thought, by the way. What the fuck? And during that whole ordeal, I forgot that I ever was in pain. Because it was so, not gonna lie, traumatic and stressful. And still, right now, to this day, it's not even, in 3 months, it's been a year since I've had to get that surgery done. And pretty much every day I'm scared that I'll go back, that I'll make a wrong move. For example, on Monday, I fell down my stairs in our apartment complex. And while I was in pain, I was also afraid that I broke my back. Because my spine right there and the discs are very, very fragile. I'm afraid that me jumping is gonna break everything. Me falling down the stairs. Me, getting bumped. I still haven't relaxed all that much. I'm still afraid, very deep in the back of my mind, am I afraid that I'll be in pain again and that I'll have to get another surgery. And after the second or third back surgery, I'll have to get my spines fused. I'm 31 years old. And I'm afraid that my life from now on is constantly fearing about my back, constantly being concerned about my back, constantly being hypervigilant of how I move, how I walk, how I lay down, how I sit down, how much I sit, how much I walk, how much I stand. And during that whole ordeal, I felt more distant to my friends and family than than ever before. While yes, my close family, my parents and my brother, had also slipped discs, they were all unique experiences, right? But I felt trapped in my body. Still do. But even with friends who were supportive, who tried to assure me, I got the feeling back then, and I still get the feeling right now, that no matter how much they try, of course they'll never understand what it's like. But it just felt really lonely. And it still does feel really lonely, especially now that I've moved. I feel very distant to the people I care about. And it fucking sucks. But yeah, it's an endless journey, I think. I am a lot on Reddit, on a forum of a subreddit with other people who have had that surgery or are considering it, because I just need other people who have had the exact same thing happen to them, but who aren't related to me, who can help each other out, because it's really lonely. I like to be alone, but I don't like to be lonely. And yeah. That's why I was pretty much dead. I lost the joy in pretty much all of my hobbies. I used to write and draw a lot, but I've stopped. And I can't wait for the day that I pick these things up again, and for the day that I finally feel joy again, because I desperately need it. Because the entire last year, I wasn't alive. I was like a ghoul wandering between life and death. I was awake, but I wasn't here. I was surviving every single second, and I do not wish that upon anyone but a few collect people. A little collection of special people whose names I will not name, but if you look at the current state of things, you can guess. So yeah. It's surreal to think of last year. There's like a black hole there. Black hole, son. I'm so sorry. And recently I was filling out a book that said, what's the best thing that happened last year? And maybe one day I can think of something positive that happened in 2025, but right now I can't. Because to me, 2025 was a year of almost endless agony, both physical and emotional. Of moments where I thought I'll never be free, and I'll forever be trapped in a body that is slowly breaking apart. And I'm still at that point, because no matter how much physical therapy I do, no matter how many walks I go on, how much I try, there is no guarantee that I will be pain-free until the day that I die. And that is not a nice thing to feel. And a lot of my friends, if not all of my friends, cannot relate how that feels. And that's really sad. Not that I wish that upon them, but it feels sad of how lonely that makes you feel. I don't want to call myself chronically ill, but it does feel like that. Because while the surgery was an absolute success, I still sometimes feel the nerve still acting up, which is not surprising. It's very understandable. My nerve was compressed for 8 months. And that is something that it will have to heal from, as much as I will have to heal from it. So a lot of the things that I've been working up recently is just what a toll that has done. No, what a toll. Wait, how do you say that? The things, the scars that it left on me, again, on my body and my soul. From the moment it happened, from the 24th of December, to that asshole doctor, and me almost passing out. All of that still bothers me a lot. And those are things, especially with that asshole doctor, those are things I'll never be able to put a check behind. It's never something I'll be able to talk about with him, because I don't want to, but also because I can't. Because in the end it worked out. Even though he completely blew everything out of proportion and put a lot of emotional stress on me. But at the end of the day, I'm better, I think. There's still a lot I have to work with, and a lot that I have to kind of like dig deeper in my psyche and what that last year has done on me, or done with me. And again, that's something that makes one really lonely, because I bet my friends are sick and tired of me talking about this shit or giving this stuff as reason as to why I'm not the same person I was before. And that is also something that I try to make them understand, is the me before my slip disc and before the surgery is gone. I have changed in such drastic ways that I can't explain. I feel like I've aged 20 years. I see things much differently now. And the things that my friends talk about seem meaningless to me and secondary, because why should I matter about my neighbor if all my energy and all my attention needs to be on myself, because I'm the one who has to lay in bed at night with myself, with my thoughts, with my body. I am very, how should I say it? I still care about the world, but I also don't. In German, we would say, I am resigned, but you can't say that. I'm just aloof. Resignation? No. I'm just no. I'm just done. And I can't wait for the day that I feel like myself again. I can't wait for the day that I feel alive again. I'm slowly getting the light back. I'm slowly getting hope back and stability. But I also know it's not a linear path that's ahead of me. There's a lot of ups and downs. And sometimes the downs are really, really bad. So yeah, that is the story of how my last year went. Both Christmas and my birthday were absolute fucking tragedies. And I never want to be in that situation ever again. And yeah, that decision is partially up to me and partially up to what my life has planned for me. You know, the stars, fate, destiny, some old guy in the clouds, whatever, right? It's all up to them. And on me and how well I do my exercises. And yeah. But yeah, if your back aches and you can afford it, go to the doctor. Don't wait. Don't act like you're tough. Don't think, yeah, it's nothing. It could be very, very well be everything. And you don't want to go through that. Yeah. And I'm aware that I have the privilege of being in Switzerland, where I have yet to pay a bill. I got one bill from the hospital, but it's almost an entire year later. I have the privilege of being able to go to the hospital at any given time and not having to worry about thousands and thousands of bucks that I have to pay out of my own pocket. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, or like, you know, I know my privilege of saying, if you feel unwell, go to the doctor, go to the hospital. In an optimal world, we could all enjoy good health without having to pay for it. But look outside. Our world is really fucked up right now. So yeah, take care of yourselves. You only have one life, you only have one body. Take care of it. Don't overdo it. Don't overanalyze every single thing you do and eat and make and whatever. But take care of yourself. Yeah. That's one thing I learned. To not push my body. And to give something back to my body. After using it for now 30 years. So yeah. Story time over.